Welcome back to Be the Change podcast with me, Stephanie Howlett, CEO of Diversity NL. Have a listen as we explore real life, vulnerable topics on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Become awakened, create culture of inclusion, be brave, have impact by being an ally. Explore how you can be the change that you always wanted to be. We respectfully acknowledge the territory in which we gather as the ancestral homelands of the Beothuk, and the island of Uktamaguk as the ancestral homelands of the Mi'kmaq and Beothuk. We'd like to recognize the Inuit of Nunatsiavut and Nunatukavut and the Innu of Nitassinan and their ancestors as the original people of Labrador. We open our hearts and minds as we strive for respectful relationships with all First Peoples of this province. We search for collective healing and true reconciliation as we honor this beautiful land together and commit ourselves to being stewards who will respect the cultures, traditions, and ceremonies of all who call it home. Welcome back to Be the Change podcast. My very special guest today, I'm delighted that she could be here with us. It's JoJo Greeley. JoJo's pronouns are she and her. She is a Red Seal Electrician. She's definitely, I'm going to call her a badass. She's a strong advocate for women in skilled trades and really promoting success, empowerment in the workplace. JoJo embarks on a new journey of self-discovery all the time. I know she embraces challenges and she inspires others. And you're also the Governor General leader. That's just amazing to me. Good for you. I know you have a lot of passions. Your sense of humor is out of this world to me, which I love. You're very honest, truthful, and you have a lot of experience within the trade. So I want to get into a little bit about your background. Like, how did that happen? How did you want to say, like, I want to be an electrician? Because not a lot of females say, or those who identify as women say, I want to be an electrician when I grow up. Tell me about that.
Right. So there's two parts to it. My dad is an electrician and he's about the same size as I am, 5'4". Growing up, he has three girls, and my brother didn't come around till much later. So we always worked with him. He had a hardware store. I've been stripping copper since I was a kid, counting wire staples, putting up lights, doing all the things. So I think it was more of I didn't know the difference. I didn't know that girls didn't all do this work. We just assumed, right, like, if there's a fence to be put up, of course, we're all going to work at it. You know, if something needed to happen in the garden, we all worked at it. I worked just like at the hardware store, I think, since I was 8 years old. So I've always had that as my life, as my reality. I moved away from Newfoundland in 87. And when I moved back in 2004, there was a really big push to get more women in trades. And that's when we started with having quotas for women on construction sites. And I know not everybody likes the word quota. And we can certainly talk about that and why that is so important. So I was just kind of working at a dead-end job, moved home, didn't know what I was going to do. And I said, well, if Dad can be an electrician, I can certainly be an electrician. So I went for it. And when I went, I was really surprised that people were surprised I was doing it. I was like, why is this so weird? And then when I ran into a couple of issues, I decided that I would be advocating for women and underrepresented people because, as you said, I have a lot of passion and I don't mind speaking up. So I like to make sure not everybody has the privilege that I do. I'm child-free, single, take care of myself. Not everybody has that in a job situation. They could be supporting families and things like that where they can't just walk away. Whereas I've always been the kind of person that says, well, this is a job and I was looking for a job when I got here. So if it's not going to be acceptable to me to work here and I'm watching other people in a difficult situation, why wouldn't I speak up?
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about, 87, like that's, like that we're going back in history. So let's jump forward. It's 2023. What is it like for trades for those who identify as females or women?
I went to school at a college here in St. John's. There was 15 of us in the class, 17 of us in the class, and 16 of them were guys, and me. And I was also one of the older people in the class. I was 35 at the time. And a lot of these fellas had just like left the nest. Some of them were still living at home, but for the most part, they were under 26 years old. So quite a bit younger than me. I never ever thought I would run into issues. I had worked in trucking industry for years in Ontario, and I used to male dominated industries and was really, really taken back on how unacceptable it was for me to be there. And that started right when I was in a trade school. So I made sure that the work that I did helped other people. And I always looked at it in a way as, I'm finishing school, I'm finishing my 9 month, I'm going to be gone, but who else is going to walk in that classroom? Who else is going to walk in and have to listen to what I'm listening to? So for me, it was very important to have that set up so that when I left the school, that other women wouldn't have to listen to and put up with some of the things I had to.
Right. So I guess kind of want to pick it up on sometimes instructors, some of the things that might be said, not, some of the, I guess, other people that might be in your classroom, and on job sites, construction sites. What has that been like for you over the years?
Yeah, it's so there's twofold. And I always like to say this as well, because there's lots of women who go to work and never, ever have an issue. Never.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. That's fantastic. I celebrate it. I didn't have that same experience. And again, it might be because I am more passionate and more forward and, have worked in many jobs. This was not my first career. So when I came from other areas and then came into construction, there were a lot of things that kind of, like the little puppy that does this with its head.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that okay here? Why is in the rest of working industry, this is not, certain actions are not okay, but they're okay in a construction industry. So that's where it really, made me dig down and say, what is actually going on here?
So what is going on here? So what are some things that you might have come up against within different organizations? We're not going to name them, of course, because we don't want to name and shame. However, like there's many organizations that need to start working on things, from the simple to the big. And culture, creating that culture of psychological safety is one of them. For many different industries, actually for all industries in all different workplaces, psychological safety is a must. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So for me, again, like I said, I worked for a couple of companies that were just fantastic. Loved going to work every day. People were what I would say normal, polite. We liked each other. We worked. We had a laugh. But then the flip side of that is there's a whole culture around women don't belong in trades. People use the word, like I like to say underrepresented. People use the word non-traditional. And to me, non-traditional means we've never done this work, right? Like we're somehow jumping right outside of the box. We're doing the weirdest thing ever. No one else ever does it. And that's actually not the truth. So my thing is, I always say, well, the Queen was a mechanic back in the war. And as we all know, women ran the countries when people went to war. So it was only when the men came back from war that the women were sent back to the house. And then it was like, no, you can't take a job from a man because, that was the time that we were in. And unfortunately, a lot of that stigma has stayed around. So because I'm a woman, I should have a husband who's the breadwinner, and this is kind of my hobby.
Right.
Or I'm a woman who's in construction because I'm looking for a husband, which is another one. Yikes. I'm not able to do the job because I'm not big enough. Yeah. And sorry, I just had a noise outside. And that why would I want to do this job? Why would I want to do it? And, I say now when I'm on construction sites and people say to me, why did you become an electrician? And I say, see Jim over there? And they're like, yeah, go ask him. No one's ever asked Jim why he became an electrician. And that makes them laugh. So I use humor for levity a lot of the time. But at the end of the day, like, why is everybody on a construction site so concerned that I want to do this job? Like, it fits everything in my life. I have ADHD. I love to be busy. I love to think. I have an interest driven mind. I like new things all the time. Construction's perfect for people like me. I work with my hands. I get to see something built. I get to figure out problems, problem solving, which again, one of my superpowers as an ADHD. I'm on the ball. I'm got lots of energy. So it really, and the other thing is too, when we go to work on construction sites, like if you were my supervisor, you say, hey, JoJo, I need you to do this today. Here's your job. And here's the process. I know what the process is. So again, for someone who has more of a disordered thinking, it's fantastic. Someone just gave you the list of the instructions to follow, right? So it just serves for me and how my brain works. It serves everything. It's the best job ever.
For sure. And I can tell you're really passionate about it. So I guess my question is like, why does it matter? People are people. And if you're going to go to the job and do a great job of it, like, then why, all this stuff that comes up of the way people are treated, that, we don't want you here. You don't belong here. You're a woman. There's no place in trades for women. The old school, I'll call it mentality of the boys club, quote unquote boys club. And I see that happens, unfortunately, in too many organizations. And how do we start trying to break down some of those barriers? So if I were the CEO of construction site X and you are coming in, like, what as the CEO can I do?
Right. So one of the great things that a lot of companies are doing now is they do have like zero harassment policies and things like that. And I think they're great. But at the end of the day, it's just a piece of paper. We sign it, as we're signing 20 other documents. As a CEO, I think understanding that culture can be top down, bottom up. From top down, the CEO needs to have things in place for the workers to understand different people who are working for you. The CEO has to say, I want to make sure women are on my job site. I want to make sure underrepresented people are on my job site, and that they work specifically to make that happen. One of the things that we have to remember is if you've been told that you're not welcome, which I had for many, many years, you can't just put on the bottom of your ad, we're an equal opportunity employer. You actually need to now go out and seek those people, because at the end of the day, I've been told I'm not welcome. I obviously can't do the job because of my lady brain. And we need to change that, because really, as you said, when you come down to it, my gender has nothing to do with my ability to be an electrician. Nothing. Am I a critical thinker? Yes. Am I a great problem solver? Yes. Do I love to work with my hands? Yes. Do I have confidence in building things? Yes. And, through our apprenticeship, those are the things we learn. We go to school, but at the end of the day, it's not till you get in there and you get your hands on things that you're like, oh, this is why we do this like that. So, the apprenticeship is the time that you learn your craft. You learn from other people. You learn that when you don't know something, this is who you go to. So it's all of that. It's not just, it's not just the book learning, if you will. It's how to be a critical thinker, how to work with other people. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. Yep.
Definitely. I mean, like zero tolerance, harassment. They're only good as the papers wrote on. Like someone needs to be the one that's policing it. Like, I hate to put that words out, but there has to be policing. So if something happens, which there does all the time, because we have person-to-person interactions, there needs to be boundaries set. There needs to be conversations had, in previous life. Being in management, I know that like you're having awkward, uncomfortable conversations all day long with people to make sure that they're setting the right track, they're doing the right thing. They're being respectful. Like, let's be honest, it's respectfully. So are you being respectful tone of voice? Are you communicating in that way that you should be communicating with people? Are you giving praise? Because praise, I think, is one of those things that it doesn't happen much in workplaces. Are you giving the necessary praise? Are you giving the support? That doesn't always happen. And what does that look like? So for you coming into a workplace, like, How can I best support JoJo?
Right. So I think when we start with, like you say, it's only as good as the paper that's written on.
Mhm.
Somebody asked me many years ago that was involved in the creation of, more women in workplaces in Newfoundland. And she said, like, how can we further this? And I said, well, you need, when you get a report and somebody reports something in your office that's a woman, you need to believe her, because if she's in there, I can guarantee you it's way worse than you think it is, because we don't
Mhm.
want to notice. We don't want special treatment. And B, you need to start firing people for their bad behavior. We need to stop saying, oh, that's just so-and-so. He's always been like that. That bad behavior needs to stop. And interestingly enough, I thought I would have more issue with older gentlemen, but that is not the case. The older gentlemen, they want to see women succeed. They've got wives and daughters. They're a little bit more mature. It's the younger fellows sometimes that are like, who the heck do you think you are coming in here taking my job? And I'm like, who the heck said this was your job? I'm not sure what contract
Yeah.
you signed up on, but so that's one of them. The other thing is that supervisors, shop stewards, people that are having one-on-one interactions with your workers need training. I can be the best electrician in the world. The best does not mean I'm a good manager. And we need to make sure that when people are getting promoted, we're not just promoting them because they're a great electrician. We're promoting them because they got excellent emotional, what do we call that?
Intelligence.
Emotional
Yeah.
intelligence. They understand how to talk to people. They're able to give instruction. They're able to, when somebody's instruction, like when they're given instruction and I show up and I go, yeah, so by the way, I broke this or that didn't work out. They need to know how to handle that with other human beings. Like, hey, that's
Mhm.
no big deal. We'll just go and have a look at it, And again, it's not working from a fear-based model, but working from a place where we're mastering a craft, where we go to work and build things, where things change all the time.
Mhm.
The other thing that companies can do is have PPE that fits all the people that work for them. And I don't like to say have PPE that fit women, because that's not the actual fact. I'm 5'4". I've worked with men who are smaller than me, and I've worked with women who are bigger than most of the men. So at the end of the day, you just really need to stop buying one size fits all, because we are not all one size. And then when we go to work, if you're giving me a pair of welding gloves, or you're giving me a pair of gloves that are falling off my fingers, or you're giving me a vest that doesn't fit me, that's a safety hazard, right? So about 20 years ago, safety was the big thing. Everybody's got to wear, like when I started, I wore a baseball cap and a pair of steel nose shoes. That was all that was required. Right. So, we're looking at 20 years ago almost.
Yeah.
So, that came on board. All of a sudden we were wearing hard hats, and oh my goodness, we had to wear glasses when we were, using a drill with metal, which again, we have to remember that the reason we're doing all of this is because, all the OH&S rules are written in blood. Somebody has been hurt. Someone has had metal in their eyes. So
Mhm.
that's why we do that. We know, well, you know better, you do better. But we have to remember that that big push for safety happened, and now that's accepted on every work site. So how do we then do that with psychological safety? How do we bring that to the forefront? And again, when we look at people who are working at heights, working in dangerous jobs, if you don't feel psychologically safe, so if I'm going to go and work on a receptacle and I have people staring at me because I happen to be a woman, I don't feel safe doing my job. I feel uncomfortable. People are staring at me. Why are they staring at me? They may think it's funny, whatever their thing is I really don't care. But if I don't feel safe doing my job, now I'm at risk of being hurt, because I'm not paying full attention to the receptacle I'm working on. Because in the forefront, it's like, oh my God, why are they looking at me? Is my shirt long enough? Is my butt sticking out? Am I doing it right? Am I doing something wrong that they see me doing wrong, but they won't tell me? So all of this swirls through your head. So when we have the psychological safety, I'm working with someone who says, oh yeah, we're going to do that plug over there, that receptacle. You do that, I'm going to do this. And you always know someone has your back. So we need to change that culture of sometimes there's a, I'm going to watch you. So there's two types of leadership, right? I'm going to watch you and catch you. Look, see, caught you. You didn't know how to do it. You were wrong. And then there's the leadership is, you go work on that. If you have any issues, get back to me. Okay, I have an issue. Oh, that's no problem. Let's talk about it. Right? I'm mastering my craft. I'm not getting in trouble as such. So that's the culture that we want, especially when we're building things, especially when we're looking at electricity. We want people to feel comfortable because they're already working in a dangerous situation. So companies can create this psychological safety. I have worked with a couple of companies that it is top of the rung. And they do that by making sure if there's graffiti on the wall, it's removed immediately. Safety talks are talked about. People who don't wear a belt and have their butts hanging out are told to go buy a belt. Inappropriate hard hat stickers are removed and told they are not welcome within that company. And when that starts happening, people start standing up and going, oh, okay, wait now, this is a little different here. And I like working for this company and I'm gonna up my game because this is actually a better atmosphere. It's not people trying to push people down.
Right. So psychological safety is about, I guess, people can make mistakes, they learn, right?
Yep.
It's a place of learning and support, is a place where you can feel free to kind of stick your neck out and say things without for fear of retaliation or backlash.
Yes.
It's a culture that is, I guess, accepting of people for who they are and providing whatever is necessary when it comes to PPE, when it comes to things that's needed to support any employee within the workplace.
Right. Absolutely. And then the other thing is when companies hire more women, more underrepresented people, now all of a sudden, I always joke when I'm on a job site and I'm the only one, if I mess up as a woman, it's like, see, them women, they don't belong here. But the guy next to me, he messes up and does the exact same thing. And they go, boy, he doesn't know what he's at.
Yeah.
Right. So I somehow represent 50% of the population and he represents himself.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I don't know if everyone knows, you call it underrepresented, I call it historically excluded. We're talking about the same thing. So women,
Absolutely.
persons with disabilities, 2S LGBTQ plus, indigenous, racialized folks. So when we're talking about that, we're talking about looking at that. So I know earlier you talked about quotas. Some people agree with it. Some people don't agree with it. Let's have a little chat about that. What's your thought on quota systems?
Sure. So when I decided to become an electrician, there was a big push in Newfoundland and Labrador to create space for women in construction. And that's how I like to look at quotas. To me, quota doesn't mean I'm just hiring someone to have them in the job. What you are doing is you're hiring a qualified person who has the same qualification as someone who is historically excluded, but has never had an opportunity to step into that job because they don't fit what an electrician is supposed to look like. So what happens is when we have quotas or targets, whatever you want to call them, we're creating space for people like me. So everybody kind of says in the beginning, like, get used to it, girl. This is how it is. And I say, no, you get used to it because this is how it is. I'm going to be here. I don't have to have thick skin to go to work. I don't have to let that roll off my back. Like, these are the things that people have told me over the years, like, oh, don't worry about that. That's just so-and-so. Well, I do worry about it because why should I have to listen to something that's unacceptable to me? In that same breath, I'm a very easygoing person. I have a great sense of humor. I'm a really good worker. So by creating these quotas on our natural resource projects in Newfoundland and Labrador, we're creating the space for me to walk into. I would not have a Red Seal without those. I would never have gotten on the Long Harbor site. I would never have been in Bull Arm. I would never have been on many jobs here because there was never space created for me.
Right.
Taking down barriers is exhausting. And it shouldn't be my job. That's a company, corporation, organization. That's their job to say, hey, how come you've excluded 50% of the population? You know, I just read another article. Ontario is going to be looking for 500,000 workers. Why are they excluding 50% of the population? Why do we just still say, like, you know, the other women don't want to do this work? Oh my gosh, well, we're all at it. So it's a good chance we do. What if we've been told that we can't do the work? What if we've been told that as a woman, I lose my femininity the minute I put on a hard hat? What if I think the myth is that all women that work in construction are big and burly and super strong and tough as nails? So what if I'm not that kind of a woman, but I really like to do that work? Right. I mean, when we look at we look at television now, all of these renovation shows. I mean, some of it I giggle. I was watching last night, and the woman's going to go welding, and she's got gloves on that somebody said, here, put these on. They're way too big for her. She's got a welding helmet on and a cotton t-shirt. Like anybody who's ever seen a welder knows this is covered, the hair is covered, they got their welding helmet on, they're wearing a big leather jacket, their gloves fit perfectly because they're using their hands. And I'm like, oh, why do they do that? You know, it just has this false reality of what women might look like in construction. Like, yes, that's great that, you know, we see it on television and stuff, but what's the reality of it, right? So
Absolutely.
I think that then the other part of the quota system is when we have, so across Canada right now, we're at about 4% on average for everybody. Newfoundland at one time was up to 18%. British Columbia has higher numbers. They work really hard. Alberta has higher numbers. But for the most part, we're at 4%. So when I show up on a job site, there's me and maybe one other woman. When you put quotas in place and you say, no, I want 10%, I want 12%, I want, 22%, it completely changes the culture, because now there isn't just one woman who's an island, right? Now it's like, oh, there's the sheet metal women, there's the electrical women, there's the crane operator women, there's the scaffolding women, there's the welding women. So all of a sudden, I'm not this white elephant in the room. I'm not a one-off. There's all of us, and we love it because we get to hang out together and talk about what we build,
Exactly. And to build on that, like looking at other folks as well. So for instance, say if we put the challenge out, because federal government has the 50-30 challenge, so 30% should be women and diversities within organizations. So, I mean, imagine 30%.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, when I was at Hebron, we had very high numbers there. And I mean, I walked in every day with the biggest smile on my face because nobody thought it was weird I was there. We had a company over from Italy that built this crane, and my friend was welding all this track for them. They couldn't believe it. A woman going to be a welder, and then how fast she was. And then she did such a good job. And then they're like, you got to come to Italy. And she's like, sure, I can. So again, like even in Canada, we're showing other countries that, work is work. Yeah. If this is work you like, fantastic. There's work I don't like. I would not be good at, but other people are good at it. And it has nothing to do with gender. And we need to take that out of the equation. We really, really do. We have to hire people because they want to do this work. Not because they're someone's cousin, uncle, their cabins are next to each other. We need to make sure that we're hiring everybody who applies. And we're not looking at resumes saying, well, that's a Joann, or, that's a name that sounds like it's from another country. So we we need to just stop doing that. It's not helpful.
So when Joann puts in a resume to go to work at a certain company, what happens versus a JoJo?
Joann doesn't get a job. And then if I don't use JoJo for resumes, I just use Joe, J-O.
Okay.
Joe gets a call all the time. Joann does. Yeah. And I've seen it. I've been sitting next to a friend and he's, someone's like, oh, so-and-so is hiring. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to call first. Watch this. I'm like, hey, I heard you're hiring. Oh, yes. Get your husband to send in his resume. Well, actually, it's for me. Oh, well, for you. Yeah, I've had my journey persons now 8 years. I have this experience, industrial, residential, da, 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 da. Oh, okay. Yeah. Send it in. We'll have a look at it. Great. Thank you. And then my buddy sits next to me, waits a half an hour. He calls in, heard you're hiring. Yes, we are. We're hiring. Okay. What do you need? Da, da, da. When can you start?
Wow.
Right. And people
Talk about bias.
Oh my gosh.
Bias. Right there, right then.
Bias. Right there, right
On
there.
the spot. There's no such thing as unconscious bias. It's just bias versus the name. Because you truly don't know who's showing up when you give a name. Like, the name and the person's voice. The person presumed that you were female because of the name or your voice. And no, we don't know what to do with that. So garbage.
No, exactly.
Right? Versus Mike.
Mike's always in. And
Yeah.
then this is the other thing that people will say, and I see this more in smaller companies because it's just, I can't trust the guys. I'd love to hire women, but I just can't trust the guys. It's gonna cause too much of a distraction in my shop, in my company. And then I say, and whose issue is that? Certainly not mine.
Mm-hmm.
You can't trust your employees to be decent human beings to a woman who might come here and do construction work. Like, wow.
Talking about a culture need to be changed, right?
There are no words for that. I have a
No.
friend who's a bricklayer in Saskatchewan, and she just sent me a conversation on Facebook of a company looking for bricklayers, men. And she was like, well, I'm a bricklayer and I have my JP. And he said, well, we don't hire women. And she was like, well, that is actually against the law. And he's like, well, we really don't care. So she reported them because, she's badass.
Yeah.
But it's 2023. Imagine you got
it is 2023.
You have a shortage of workers, and a worker has come to you and said, I have, she's been at this same as me 20 years, but you're not going to hire her because her name is Kaylee. Right. And she's got hair. How does that affect her ability to set stones?
Bricks and mortar. Right? Yeah. So, I mean, the whole premise of we have a shortage of workers. We need people to work. But what people aren't looking at is we're talking about, again, historically excluded. Like it's 50% of the population that identifies as female, if not more. Plus, persons with disabilities, right?
Absolutely.
Not just what you can see, right? The invisible disabilities. Like there's so many different things that we can talk about there. Like we talked about a little bit ADHD before, like neurodiverse.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, as what I can see, and I mean, I'm just, throwing it out there. Almost everybody I work with is neurodiverse. We love it. That, oh my gosh, right? It has structure.
Yes.
Somebody is saying these are the steps. You get to be a critical thinker. We love to think. We love big, like, oh, how am I going to build this? Like that's our neurodiverse superpowers.
Yes.
Right? Loads of energy. Love to work with our hands. Typically ADHDers are not we don't want jobs where we're sitting at a desk. That drives us bonkers. We want to be outside cutting down trees and building fences and doing the things. And we have to remember that if we don't have people doing these things, we don't have lights in our house. We don't have houses being built. And, you don't have to look very far to see that there's a huge shortage. Try getting a plumber in St. John's. I'm 3 months and I'm in the trades. I know all these people. I'm calling in favors and I still can't get someone at my house. So how is the average family calling up and getting things fixed? Try getting a deck built in St. John's, right? It's a 2-year wait. So again, like how can we exclude all of these people, or how can we then, look down on a construction worker? And I've had that in the past and I've said, it's like, I know, I'm just bring the electricity to your computer. I can understand how you're much more important than me and that my job is so remedial, but I bring the electricity to your desk, right? I put up the lights so you can see in your room. Plumbers make sure that the water is running in your house. Again, like, why are we looked down upon? We should be top of the food chain. Everybody else is like, I always say I have a friend who is a fantastic writer and a lawyer, and I do all his electrical work for him. And he's like, I just like that you come here and you don't make me feel bad that I don't know how to do this. And I'm like, listen, I'm making money off you. This is fantastic. And you make me a nice cup of tea and we have a yarn, and right. Again, it's just skills.
It is. And we all have different skill sets, and acknowledging that, hey, what you're great at, I'm probably not great at, but there's a role for all of us to play, all of us. I mean, the full all of us to play.
100%. Absolutely. I mean, even when we talk about persons with physical disabilities on job sites, I mean, I've worked with crane operators who use walkers. They had an accommodation. They drive their vehicle right up to where their crane is. They have a walker to get them there. They climb up, they work in their crane, they come back down again. There are all kinds of jobs like that. So again, we need to stop thinking that it's only a certain look and gender that can do these jobs. We have to stop that.
Absolutely. I think if we start challenging, and you start challenging, you have challenged, I've challenged. So start challenging people's small in the box thinking of how things have been done because it's historically been done that way. We know that because cars historically looked a certain way, which started off as horse and carriage. Like, look at the progression, look at the computers, look at the first computer you've ever had, the progression of something the size of, like your desk, as opposed to something now it's a cell phone. Like, just the progression that we need to start challenging some of those things, right?
Well, it's like, and I'm sure you've heard me say this, like, again, because of my brain, I'm like, people are like, oh, it's really easy. You just do this on your phone. And then you look up this website and then you do these 3 things. And then you do this and this. And I look at them and I go, I remember when I got an answering machine. That was perfect for me. I didn't really need to go past that. So stop telling me what's easy. Right? People say, oh, because I do this type of work, and they go, well, just make a PowerPoint presentation. It's really easy. And I was like, okay, so I'll make the PowerPoint presentation and you go down and tie in an electrical panel. It's easy. Like, it's really easy to me. And then they stop and they look at me and they're like, oh, I'm like, figuring out PowerPoint is not easy for me. Super frustrating. Don't even want to be at it. I'll pay someone all day to do that work. But put in a panel, oh my gosh, put the radio on and have 4 hours of quiet and stand there and put all my wires in and make it look fantastic. That's dream, And I remember the first time I was left on my own as an electrician, and I was in a brand new house and I had to put up all the light fixtures and I had to put in all the heaters. And I was there by myself. I had my nice radio on, and I can remember when I took my break and sat outside, and I'm like, this is the coolest job ever. Like, I just couldn't believe I was being paid to do this work because I loved it. Open a box, put it all together, decide the lengths, right? Make decisions, build things, put it up, turn the light on. My gosh, that's brilliant. What more would you want out of life?
Yeah, but I mean, it's looking at how we embrace that, how we truly give that empowerment to people to be able to do things like that. Bringing the best out of your employees. I guess that's what we're talking about. How do we bring the best out of our employees? So I guess some final messaging to leaders and folks that might be listening, whether that's post-secondary, other folks in the trades, any helpful hints or any messaging that we can just leave people with?
Sure, absolutely. So you have to remember that when you are hiring people, they are representing you. So if I have Joann Greeley Electric and I hire someone who's disrespectful to my customers or to other people, that's on me. I feel that corporations, companies need to up their game, and they need to come up to the standards of what is an acceptable workplace. I don't like respectful because what I consider respectful and what you consider
Mhm.
respectful are quite different. And it's just, it is how we're raised. So I like to say acceptable. So an acceptable workspace has clean washrooms for all genders or a gender neutral washroom. It has PPE that fits. It has tools that are available for the worker. It has open and clear communication. It makes sure that, and not everybody knows this, but in construction, we wear hard hats and we collect hard hat stickers like little youngsters, and we love it. And it's really fun. It can be fun. But there's also this other side of hard hat stickers where they can be very rude and disrespectful for many people. And it's a company's and an organization's, that's their responsibility to make sure that the hard hat stickers on your workers are acceptable. You can have fun with it. I mean, my gosh, out in Long Harbor, we had all these Chuck Norris ones made up and handed them out to people. And they were a blast because we had them like almost like trading cards, right? But at the end of the day, I shouldn't feel uncomfortable when I'm speaking with a supervisor and they have a very disrespectful, rude hard hat sticker on their head. Again, not my responsibility as a woman or a person who's different from white man. That's not my job to say, hey, Frank, that's really rude. It's not acceptable. We don't show up to work with, ignorant t-shirts, but somehow these hard hat stickers keep getting overlooked. So if I was to say to a company, start right from the bottom. Train your supervisors. Again, just because you're a great electrician doesn't mean you're a great manager, doesn't mean you're a great supervisor. Provide them with training and make sure that they understand how to motivate people, right? That's what we want. We want to master our skill. And just be straight up and have open door policy and make sure the space is created for people like me. Make sure that when I show up to work, I don't have to go, oh gosh, they have, the island posters everywhere. And, the other side of it is not just me that doesn't like that. There's lots of men who can't stand that stuff either, right? There's only a small group of people who really are, the bad apple in the bunch, if you will. Most other people are just not even, they do not find that funny, acceptable either. So, again, it's kind of like I see like feminism opens doors for lots of other people, right? When women step forward and say, not on my watch, there's a whole bunch of people behind us who are like, whew, thank God she said that. I didn't want to see graffiti on the walls. I didn't want to see dirty hard hat stickers. I don't want to listen to people cursing and swearing and using inappropriate language. It's to me, it's really simple. Hire diverse people. Make sure they have a good experience at your job. Make sure they're safe. And all you have to do is ask. All you have to do is open your eyes. As a manager, walk around and see what's going on. Pretend you're going to work on something in an area where you can, see your workers, talk to them and see what kind of culture is going on there. It doesn't take very much. And culture can be changed really easily and quickly. But it's effort and it's intentional. It's never going to happen. We're not going to get to 30% women on a construction site by the grace of God. That is not going to happen. It is intentional work. The numbers haven't moved since the 70s when it comes to construction. In every other industry, lawyers, doctors, that's all changed. But construction is kind of like the last frontier that we need to say, hey, we need more workers and we want everybody involved.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today. I truly appreciate your time. And we get to work together, I know, on panel discussions and things. And I truly admire you and thank you for everything that you do and everything that you give to people. So thanks for joining us today and Be the Change.
Thank you so much. And thank you for hosting. Again, hopefully somebody listens to this and says, oh my gosh, I only have to do 3 or 4 things and my company is going to be up to speed. So we just have to remember that we're all humans that go to work and deserve respect, right? It's Absolutely. A job. And when we go to job, we should not feel unsafe and we should not feel respected. So it's all we're for. And we want to build
Respect.
respect. And we want to build some really cool stuff.
Absolutely. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
All right, JoJo, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You as well.
Bye now.
Thanks so much for being with us today. Comment below, subscribe, connect with me at Stephanie@diversitynl.com or on LinkedIn. Be the change.